welcome some of our filmmakers and facilitators up on stage.
Well, I'm Carlos. I worked on this, well, I didn't really work on the second video, but I was part of the project then. And I was one of the photographers, and I think y'all did a really good job with the video.
Hi, my name is Federica Noel. I was actually introduced to this internship by Ms. Janir Reardon, so give her a round of applause. So I really enjoyed working on this project. I was involved in both the photography and video editing for both videos. I also captured some film, and it's something that I keep near and dear to my heart. And I really enjoyed just, hanging out on the Malden River, learning more and more about it each and every day. And also hanging out with Amanda and learning more about her and getting to know more about Amy, even though we don't see each other that much at school, but I loved it and it's worthwhile.
Oh my goodness, that was lovely. They are both just extremely talented photographers, filmmakers on the rise, so they're very humble. I feel like I'm one of the facilitators. I would say an educational coordinator at UMA. Osa and I like to work together, and Maceo and I, and Anne, and building on educational programming. And my favorite part of the project is similar. I just like watching them form these bonds and also find not only what they're good at, but what they love and what they're passionate about, and just the joy in seeing the animals and being out on the river. And also, I really enjoy it too. So it's just a really fun way to pass the day. And I love watching videos, and I love creating videos of kids and hearing their voices and their narrations, and that's me.
Hello everyone, my name is Amy Nguyen. I'm currently a senior at Roman Catholic, and I first want to say thank you for everyone for coming to support us. We all really appreciate it very much. And my favorite part of the project was, alongside the filming, of course, was definitely meeting a lot of amazing people. Karen was she was so passionate about everything she does. Amanda and all the other interns, they really show that they really care about what they do, and they're so passionate, which really makes me inspired to go into film as a hobby. And of course, meeting everyone, Carlos, you're very cool. It's very fun meeting you.
Thank you.
As you can see, I'm the outlier here. My name is Kara Walensky. I'm one of the producers at Trillium Studios film. Before we started making films, I was a photographer for National Geographic for 37 years. And I got to tell you all, I love your films. And I just think that you got to keep going, because it's this kind of passion that makes things happen. I always think of it as filmmaking as the opposite of a PowerPoint presentation. It's built on passion and emotion rather than information. And so the story you saw today, we're working on an experiment. When I say we, my son is a filmmaker, my wife's a graphic designer, we are Trillium Studios. And our idea was to make films that could be distributed free of charge to schools, legislators, and nonprofit organizations that they could use to get out their message. This started because we were invited by the North-South River Watershed organization on the South Shore to make their 50th anniversary film. And when I realized that they really couldn't afford the films that they needed, and that if they were trying to raise money to make a film, they were starving some other aspect of the work that they were doing. So we found a donor. We've now got 3 years of funding. We've just created 3 films, which you can find at turnaround-films.com, turnaround-films.com. They're available for anybody to use. You can embed them in your website, you can use them in the classroom, you can use them in the legislature, and this is just the beginning of a project which we hope will take off not only in Massachusetts and New England, but nationwide. So thank you very much for coming.
That's wonderful. I've watched that film at least 5 times, so wonderful.
Yes.
Just a little bit about your work with the youth.
Well, I think you just saw
Yeah.
why I do this. And it's all so important that we're friends of the Malden River, that we are building a community around action. It's about making changes and being committed to those changes and being consistent with those changes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
I just want to say that the film, like what you saw today, it is based on an astonishing amount of trust and collaboration. So any great documentary film you see, it's that somebody has let the filmmakers, which is an extremely intrusive process, into their lives for a long period of time. And nobody was better than that than Karen Park.
I have a question for the students. Just wondering if your schools give any credit for this kind of work, or whether it's part of a program at the school, or is this completely extracurricular? And if it's not part of the curriculum, is there some way that we can make that so?
Yeah, so I think last year, Miss Janine Reardon, as you know, in the crowd right now, she's the head of the leadership program at Malden Catholic High School, and I couldn't thank her more. So it just started out as something really small and simple, but it grew on us over time, and it's something that we continued with. Personally, I still do stuff with UMA, and other organizations such as Amir Studios. So it's not only just like an internship, it's something that you stay with and something that you start to enjoy and appreciate.
In addition to Urban Media Arts, there was also other internship programs provided from Malden Catholic, such as an MIT program, as well as other finance organizations. So I can really thank Malden Catholic for providing me with this opportunity. And after the Urban Media Arts experience, I noticed that people were interested in filmmaking more. So there's currently a film club in the making, which I heard, which is like coming to MC, so that's really cool.
How many trips did you make out on the river? Is that like one day or a week, or like how many?
Oh, good question. You want to take that one? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a one-day trip on the river. We kind of just commuted around, we took photos, and we also took a little bit of film.
We took the less expensive small handheld cameras, and we said, hopefully nothing will happen to them, but at least they're not as expensive. But we actually are in talks to do some more programming, hence why we're doing events like this, and we want to do a program centered around marine life, but in general, just continue. We want to be able to sustain this and reach more kids, so we're really working towards that, getting those resources together. Yes.
Although it was one day, we went like back and forth like 5 times because Sharif met at the other side, so we went there. And we forgot our lunches, and then we went back, and then we went just like back and forth. So it felt like a 3-day trip.
It was good exercise. I have a question about Karen on the river. What inspired that? Like, did you always have a plan? Did you guys always have a plan to make a film about Karen? Did something strike you?
We started on this project in early 2020, before pandemic hit, and so our idea was to make films about climate change. And one of the things we learned from working with North-South River was that a lot of the things that happen are exacerbated by climate change. So for example, all that plastic that's going into the Malden River, when you have these extremely heavy downpours, it moves the plastics and other garbage that's on the street faster and more directly into the river. And so we wanted to build a series of films that were related to climate change, but not necessarily just about climate change. And we got involved with the Mystic River Watershed Association, and during the conversations with them, when we were doing research, I think it was Andy Hersenau who said, "Oh, there's this crazy lady who picks up garbage." And she kind of manages this program with great energy. And it's interesting that you mentioned the young woman who got in the canoe and her story. The best films are stories that people tell themselves. They tell about themselves and about their passion. It's not about, oh, there's climate change. That just exists. To make a film, there has to be a story. And the best stories are about individuals. And that's jumped out at me right away. We're talking about her trepidation getting in a canoe, and I thought that was really beautifully done. So we connected with Karen, and I can't tell you how many times we were on the river. We had to come several times to shoot aerials. We had to come several times to shoot wildlife and emptying the trash boom. That adds up very, very quickly in a number of days on the river. But the two other films that are in the series, one is called The Impervious Problem, which is the story of how impervious surfaces during climate change exacerbate heat problems in cities and the flow of water. And the third film is called Green Roofs, and it's a story about putting what happens when you put a living roof on a building in Boston or one of these other cities around in terms of absorbing that water, so it picks it up like a sponge and releases it slowly, or absorbing the heat that might otherwise be accumulated by the hot black roofs.
What was something like a takeaway that you learned from doing this?
That's an awesome question. Who's jumping? I know you guys have told me some things. Here you go.
Collaboration is super important. It's like super duper important, and communication. But also, B-roll is B-roll makes the video just like 20 times better. So that's all I think.
Yeah, you guys learn fast.
Timing and editing does take a lot of time. I did some editing before this internship, but using an actual professional filmmaker was kind of hectic at first, going through all the tutorials and figuring out how to put this together. I have a feeling Adobe Premiere is cursed. There's so much going on. You gotta drag the transitions just to make that perfect, scene. But yeah, it's worthwhile. I really like how it turned out, so that was a plus. But it does take a lot of time, and you have to be willing to do it. But it's definitely something I would do on the side.
I love that answer.
I wasn't really involved in the editing process as they were, which they did a great job with, but I guess if I had to comment, I would say that, like Amy said, B-roll is super important, at least in my previous experiences, and that I really love shooting outside. I learned that shooting outside, it's like great. A lot of my pictures that I took that day are some of my favorites I've ever taken.
Yeah, and I also enjoy taking photos because I still have them on my phone actually, and whenever I look back on them, I realize, hey, I did something important, and I was able to inform my community and others about what was happening. So hopefully we can all work together and make a change.
You guys are so inspiring. Oh, yes, please.
So I will say that when I was talking to people about this project, they're saying, "You're doing what? You're taking kids in a canoe with cameras?" I mean, I don't even take my own camera. So it was just amazing what you folks produced. And Amanda, by the way, she has been tremendous with this whole project. The absolute keystone. And she was up all night putting this whole thing together.
Only because Final Cut is also cursed.
And then Carrie, thank you so much for, making this happen with Trillium and the Malden River, and, it really brought it to the spotlight. Thank you.
Yes. So wonderful.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Christensen, Mayor of the City of Malden. On behalf of Council Winslow, we just want to say thank you for making a difference. Everybody thinks it's us, but in reality, it's you. And to let you know, the impact that you've had on the City of Malden, the local government, is that we just delivered our State of the City address on February 26th. And typically, in years past, our State of the City address would cover police, fire, schools, But this year, the Malden River has its own dedicated section within that presentation for the first time since Steve and I have been serving, and that's a direct result of what you have done here. So we just want you to be assured that when you leave here today, it doesn't stop. It continues, because Council Winslow and I are committing $5 million to an upgrade of the Public Works Department. So I wish Hannah was here today, because she would know that the next time she goes there, it will not look like it.
How do you work with the people in Everett and Medford?
Certainly. So Malden River is the 3 communities. And I will say that I do more work with Everett. I have a partner, Tom Philbin, over there, and we dig out tires and do all of it. And River Green is has become this fantastic park, due to a lot of different fundings from Encore. But nevertheless, the river is cleaned up from that. Medford, we need to connect more with Medford, but that's up to Mystic River watershed.
Well, we did go to River's Edge.
Excuse me, John Priatel, River's Edge Development, they are fantastic supporters of the Friends of the Malden River, Malden, Medford, etc. So, yeah, we work together.
Go for it.
Hi everybody, I'm Malden State Senator Jason Lewis, and delighted to be able to join you. This was just wonderful and so inspiring, so just want to offer my thanks and congratulations to the students, to Amanda, to Karen, to Trillium, Friends of the Malden River, everybody involved in not just producing this wonderful art, the Cultural Council too, but of course all the work that has gone on, continues to go on in restoring the river and the riverbank. It's such important work. We have a very significant solid waste problem, not just in this area, but in our state and our nation. Basically, waste is going one of 3 places. It's unfortunately ending up as litter, and we saw that so vividly. And as you said, there's nothing like a film to really drive home the message. When somebody litters and it ends up in the storm drains, and then in our river, streams, rivers, and oceans. The other place it goes is that it ends up in landfills, and we have some in Massachusetts, but a lot of that is actually shipped out of state, so we actually ship waste to other places, and some of those are filling up. And then the third thing is we burn it in incinerators, and all 3 of those are terrible solutions. Obviously, everybody grasps why it's bad to throw things to just litter, but putting waste in landfills is also very, very problematic, and burning it puts pollutants into the air. It's a major environmental justice issue, because where do you think incinerators tend to be located? Tend to be located in under-resourced communities. Like there's one not that far from here, which is basically right, bordering Revere and a very important wetlands area as well. And there's been an effort to restrict that or shut it down, and that hasn't happened yet. Anyway, point being that this is something I think that, and you're really helping us put a bright light on it, that we all need to think about how we can play a part in reducing waste. And the vision that is increasingly being talked about is zero waste. And when I first heard that, and when a lot of people hear that, they say, well, that's ridiculous, that's completely unrealistic. But when you actually look at what makes up our waste stream, and you start to sort of take this one step at a time, you see how much progress you could make. A big chunk of our waste stream is actually things that are supposed to be recycled already. Like cans, bottles, cardboard, things like that, that still gets thrown out. Another big chunk of our waste stream is organics, which we have alternatives for. We can compost it. There's other ways we can deal with organics. So as you go through, now of course the best thing we could do is not generate that waste in the first place, right? And so that's why reuse is the best thing we can do. But even to the extent that we're still generating it, there's strategies and things that we can do that can make a difference. Now, this is something we all play a part in, but it's a very hard thing to put on each one of us as individuals. And so one of the things we're trying to do in terms of policymakers, at the state level, and I hope they're working on this in Washington as well, is looking at new policies we can put in place, laws that we can pass that can really drive systemic change to reduce waste. And one of the things I'm really excited about is we created recently a new caucus in the state legislature on Beacon Hill. It's called the Zero Waste Caucus, and I co-chair that caucus. I'm the Senate chair. Representative Michelle Socolo from Lexington, who's a wonderful state rep, is the House chair. We're partnered very closely with the Conservation Law Foundation, CLF, and anybody, by the way, who wants to get more involved in these issues, obviously make sure you're active with Friends of Malden River and all the work that's going on here. But if you want to also be involved in some more, sort of advocacy at the regional and state level, Conservation Law Foundation, CLF, is a great organization to turn to. Last thing I was going to mention is that, just so you're aware of some of the things more specifically we're working on, within the Zero Waste Caucus, we're focused on education and I think, by the way, I'd love to get access to these films because we'll show them to all the legislators that are part of the caucus. We have a lot of senators and representatives who attend, so we'll follow up on that. We have 3 priority pieces of legislation that we are currently working on that you can all help to advocate for, that we can hopefully get these passed in Massachusetts. The first is to update the bottle bill. The bottle bill is completely out of date. We need to add new containers. We need to increase the deposit. It's a very, very effective strategy for getting, particularly, well, it would be effective in getting plastic out of the waste stream if we included plastic bottles, which are not included today. So we're working to hopefully get that enacted. Unfortunately, that failed at the ballot several years ago because the big beverage industry poured a huge amount of money into defeating it at the ballot, which was very disheartening. We're working to do that. Second priority is extended producer responsibility. Does anyone know what that is? So that's where basically we need to turn the tables and make the companies that produce all the trash, because of all the packaging and all of that, we need to make them responsible for what happens to it. So Maine has done this already. I think there's one, Washington or Oregon has. We need Massachusetts to be a leader in this as well, by starting to make producers, manufacturers, also responsible for what happens to the waste downstream, not putting it all on consumers, although obviously consumers have a part to play. And then the third priority is a bill that would significantly reduce single-use plastics by really putting a statewide ban on things like single-use plastic bags, polystyrene, NIPS bottles, and a variety of other packages that we really do need to phase out. I think everybody's well aware that not only does that plastic make its way down and pollute the Malden River and other rivers and streams, but it breaks down into microplastics, which then find their way into the oceans, and it is a huge, huge problem, and it's a crisis in terms of what's happening to our oceans with plastic pollution. So that's why this is important, and I'm happy to be working with all of you, and thank you, Karen, so much. I didn't think anybody picked up more trash than Mayor Christensen did, but clearly I was wrong. Yeah, so inspired, and I feel like, I'm going to go redouble my efforts when I go back on Monday to this work, because we really have to make progress together to reduce litter and waste and trash, and save our planet. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very heartening to hear that there's action behind, like, we all feel this way and we all feel passionate about these things, and to hear that there's action happening is very heartening.
And we can say that Karen Buck ensured that this reception is a zero waste reception, just so you know. And here, I'm turning it over to her husband.
Well, I just want to say that if you want to have a standard bearer for understanding how to stop all the garbage, when we go over to friends' houses, they scramble around. Oh, there's no plastic sitting out there, I can see. Or do I have the right bucket over here for the recycling. I mean, she truly is a standard bearer. And yet, a little bit of fear. It's a good kind of fear. And adding to not just waiting for laws to change, every time you go to a store, if they have styrofoam, tell them you don't want to go to their business. If you are going to get a cup of coffee, if you don't have your own coffee container, you shouldn't get it. Because everything, even paper, is garbage. So you can think about little things to change your lifestyle and what's going on around you. For instance, Karen taught us to carry plastic containers in our car, so that every time we get leftovers, we have them. All right? But so there are a lot of things you can do before these laws change. So I just want to say that, and thank you, Karen.
Total inspiration, I have to say, and it's nice to hear from the young people, because you are the future, you are the present, and I'm so thankful that you are involved in this. That means that we have a commitment also with the Malden Public Schools to get also students to think more about how we are going to improve our own city and the future. So I just have to say, total inspiration, amazing work, and thank you for leading the work. I think we have a lot to learn and a lot to think about how we're going to get our young people to start also thinking of the future, which is the present right now. So thank you.
I just want to say it's powerful to see all these friendly faces from the community and leaders in the schools and in the city and state officials, and to feel that support, not just for UMA, but for our youth, for Malden River, and we just appreciate you coming, for your donations, for you wanting to give your time, coming to River Cleans, everything that you do in this community. It's felt and it's appreciated, I would say. Thank you. Oops. I also want to share that I know that you guys were very patient with checking out our very small gallery. We will give a nice intimate gallery tour right after this for anyone who didn't really get a chance to take it in. And it'll be open for the rest of this month. We have another gallery going up in April. What month is it? April. Yes. So that's an open invitation. Just let me know. Thank you.